Today is Monday. Yesterday was Palm Sunday, where Jesus triumphantly entered Jerusalem and made his way to the temple, where nothing really happened. In fact, the end of Mark 11, it simply says Jesus looked around, it was late, and so they went back to Bethany just as they had came. But Monday, everything changed. Listen to what happens on Monday. On reaching Jerusalem, Jesus entered the temple area and began driving out those who were buying and selling there. He overturned the tables of the money changers and the benches of those selling doves, and would not allow anyone to carry merchandise through the temple courts. And as he taught them, he said, "Is it not written, 'My house will be called a house of prayer for all nations,' but you have made it a den of robbers." The chief priests and the teachers of the law heard this and began looking for a way to kill him, for they feared him, because the whole crowd was amazed at his teaching. When evening came, they went out of the city. I'm guessing that many of you have heard this story before and may think that what Jesus was so upset about was that the prices were out of control and that these poor people were being gouged to buy these animal sacrifices. But that's not what Jesus was upset about at all. In fact, the passage read that Jesus drove out both those who were selling and those who were buying. Jesus drove them both out. If he was just upset at price markups, he would have drove out just the sellers. No, what Jesus was most upset about was the location where this was all taking place. Right now I'm standing in front of my church, and let's pretend the church is the temple in Jesus' day. Right now in the grassy area, this is the outer part of the temple complex where the Gentiles, the non-Jews, it was the closest they could come to be in the presence of God. The porch would be like the courtyard of the temple. There any Jew could come. Inside the church is like the holy place, and there only the priest could enter. And of course, up by the altar in our sanctuary, that could be considered like the most holy place, where only the high priest once a year could enter on the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur. So I stand here in the area, the outer part of the complex where the Gentiles could come, the closest they could get. And that is where the religious leaders chose to set up shop, to set up the marketplace, to, in a sense, crowd out all the Gentiles amongst them. These Gentile God-fearers who want to worship God, who know that the God of the Jews is the true God, and yet they're trying to worship him with the smell of animals and the haggling, the sounds of haggling in their ears. No wonder Jesus was upset. How thankful we can be today that we are not called to go to one place to worship. It's not like we have to invite non-believers to come to a certain spot to find God. No, instead just the opposite. We're now called by God. We in fact are commissioned by God to go and share the wonderful news of Jesus Christ to everyone. And so I encourage you to do that right now. Who do you know that doesn't have a church family, who doesn't really follow God, who doesn't have a personal relationship with Christ? Will you take a moment and just pray for them by name, that they may seek God, and God will surely find them.